Today at CIVILNET, my guest is George Shirinian, who is Executive Director of the Zoryan Institute for Contemporary Armenian Research and Documentation, based in Toronto, Canada. In the interests of fairness, I should say that George and I both were librarians in our former lives, and I should also say that we were also colleagues at Zoryan in my former life. George, welcome to Civilitas and to CIVILNET.
Thanks, it's a pleasure to be here.
George, you know, when Zoryan started, way before independence, we used to say that the Institute is focused on 3 areas of study: the diaspora, Soviet Armenia, and genocide. And since independence, more and more Zoryan has focused on genocide recognition issues through scholarship. Would you say that's an accurate statement, and why?
Well, a number of factors have made it maybe seem to go in that direction. There was a confluence of the Institute really attracting some of the world's top genocide scholars to work with us, and you don't turn them away when you have that opportunity. But fundamentally, it's all under the rubric of studying the forces and factors that shape the Armenian reality today. The Institute was founded by a driving need to understand what is Armenian identity in a population that has been dispersed around the world. We understood that the main factors are diaspora, genocide, and the influence of the Armenian homeland.
The diaspora part really seems today, at least, to be limited to the exceptional, unique Diaspora Journal that is co-published by Zoryan and University of Toronto Press, and Khachik Tolerian is editor. Still, and we do get issues here, and we're very happy to receive it. But really, the bulk of the publications, the monographs, are really genocide related. How do you pick which ones, when, and why?
Well, I would say that every project that comes our way, and many are offered, few are chosen, have to meet certain criteria. Fundamentally, they have to be original, not based on secondary sources, but on previously unpublished archival documents. That already narrows the field quite a bit. It just so happens that because of the nature of the Institute, which has a reputation for working according to the highest academic standards, we've managed to attract scholars who are not Armenian of ethnicity, but they have their own burning desire related to the Armenian genocide. People like Yair Aron, who is unhappy with the way his people in Israel are unaware of the genocides of other peoples. He came to Zoryan to help us, help him educate his people. Wolfgang Gust, a very patriotic German citizen, was unhappy with the German role in the Armenian genocide. We worked with him for years to produce his documents, first in German, then they come out in Armenian, and then very recently in Turkish. I will hopefully have a chance to talk about that, and later this year in English. So our work can really snowball. And I must also mention Taner Akçam, a very patriotic Turkish citizen who feels that what its government is doing in the way of genocide denial is very morally wrong. And he works with us to help correct that situation.
It's really interesting that the bulk of the scholars, at least the visible bulk of the scholars who cooperate with Zoryan, are either Israeli or Turkish. And I would imagine that that makes the next research, the next product, the next project a little bit more difficult?
Makes it more interesting. I must say that it's not only their ethnicity that is the issue. We work with a lot of scholars of all ethnicities. These are people who have a strong commitment to the principles of scholarship and also to human rights. So you have people who are legal specialists, political scientists, sociologists, and so forth, all have a place under the Zoryan big tent.
What are the most recent publications?
Well,
Coups.
In the last few months, we put out in English a book called Judgment at Istanbul, the Armenian Genocide Trials. And this is the first time published in English altogether, the documentation of the trials of those who perpetrated the Armenian genocide, trials that took place in Istanbul immediately after World War I. There is a famous document called the Takvimi Vekai, which the government published as an official record of some of the trials, and for years that was all that was known.
And that was how many trials?
12. But we knew from an Armenian newspaper published in Istanbul in French called Renaissance they were reporting facts taken from other newspapers, that there was more information out there. So to supplement the Takmi we commissioned a surreptitious research project in Turkey. We hired 3 teams of Turkish researchers under the guise that they're researching Turkish national history. We felt that if they knew, or the officials knew, what our true subject was, we would be blocked. We wanted to go and have access to all of the newspapers published in Istanbul during the trials period, the amnesty period when there was no censorship in Turkey.
Which was what years?
1919 to 1921. We discovered 17 newspapers who had daily testimony from the witness stand from mostly Turkish officials, professional people, doctors, nurses, that was just mind-blowing. Stuff that had been carefully suppressed, unfortunately, in modern Turkish society. So we collected all this stuff, and together with Takmi with a several hundred-page introduction looking at the legal and historical and social analysis of what all this means, and published it. Interestingly, the book came out in Turkish a little earlier with Bilgi University Press.
So first in Turkish, then in English.
That's just because they streamlined it in Turkish first. Getting any book of scholarship on the Armenian genocide through the North American publishing system is a challenge. Here it's much more a profit-making business, and you have to justify the book not only by its excellence, but is it going to make the publisher money? That's why I always remind Armenians, please support your scholars, please support your institute, and buy the books that are produced.
Well, you're doing something about supporting the scholars, especially young scholars, with the summer program that actually trains young scholars in genocide studies from all over the world.
Yes, indeed. About 11, 12 years ago, we started a project called the Genocide and Human Rights University Program. It was a pilot project then, but it was so successful in its first year, we knew it was going to be an annual. So we've created a 65-hour graduate level course. It's very intense. Most courses are only 39 hours. And it's done every day, 9 to 5 for 2 weeks. And people come from all over the world. They're in the dorms together. They eat, sleep, and study together.
I wonder what they dream about.
Well, they talk till all hours of the night about genocide, not surprisingly. And they make strong friendships. They get a chance to meet with some of the world's top genocide scholars. We have 10 scholars who come in and teach, each in the various aspects of their expertise. So you can't get this knowledge anywhere else in the world. And a great number of these people who've come either because they're interested as on a personal basis, or they're activists, or they're scholars. Most important for us is to create the next generation of genocide scholars. And a good number of them have gone into that field. So we feel that the project has been a big success.
This is an unfair question to ask, but I'm going to ask it, and we'll end with this. If in Armenia, if we were to want policy that would encourage, that would facilitate one of these areas, either research, well, one of these 3 areas, research, publishing, or education, which is it that, from your perspective, would be most helpful for us to be doing in Armenia?
The easiest to answer would be to say, to appreciate the strategic value of scholarship and scholarly publications. We were pleasantly surprised this morning to see an article in Hurriyet Daily News by Mehmet Ali Birand, to whom we had sent a copy of the Turkish edition of the German documents on the Armenian genocide. And he said quite openly, no one can look at this in Turkey and deny that there was a genocide. We're fooling ourselves. This, I think, is a tremendous boost to those who want to see the Armenian genocide universally recognized, and to those who want to see any kind of restitution come, any kind of dialogue between Turkey and Armenia. The benefits are innumerable.
Thank you, George Shirinian. George Shirinian is Executive Director of the Zoryan Institute for Contemporary Armenian Research and Documentation, based in Toronto, Canada. And we've been talking about the importance of genocide scholarship in general, and the work of the Zoryan Institute in particular, especially in the run-up to the 100th anniversary of the genocide.